Question 1. Can you tell me a little about yourself?
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Don't just give your life story. The truth is the interviewer isn't interested in it. Unless you are specifically asked to give your life story. Stick to your current situation, career, and education.
Tip 2. Don't give your interviewer your complete personal or employment history. You want to pitch yourself. Give one that is compelling and concise, that shows why you're the perfect person for this job.
Tip 3. Keep your answers short and sweet. Keep on point and don't talk about personal likes, hobbies, or any dislikes.
Tip 4. Begin with 2 or 3 specific experiences or accomplishments that you want your interviewer to know about. Then finish it up by talking about how your prior experiences have prepared you for this certain role.
Tip 5. To answer this, talk about what you have done in order to prepare yourself to be the best for this job. Use 1 or 2 examples to back it up and then ask if they want more details. If they do, then give them plenty of examples of your experience and background.
Tip 6. Connect your experience with why you have applied for this job opportunity.
Tip 7. Only give positive statements. Sell your experiences and skills as a benefit.
Part B. Steps to answer. Step 1. Introduce briefly about yourself. Name, age, education, major subject, education ranking.
Step 2. Present the experience you get when working in the most recent 2 to 3 companies. And what are the benefits of that experience for new job?
Step 3. Demonstrate the skills, qualities that can meet the requirements of employers. Do not ever think that employers will find out what qualities you fit their job. You should tell your employer that you have what qualities they are looking for.
Step 4. Present the employer why you are applying for this company.
Step 5. Interview your employer. Ask employers the information that you are interested, and especially make employers believe that you really are interested in this job.
Question 2. Why are you leaving your last job?
Employers ask this question to get a clearer picture of who you might be as an employee, and the circumstances of your departure from your last job, but they can always check that with your references.
They're also asking this to determine if you're someone who might not stay long enough with the company after you've been trained.
Part A. Tips to answer.
Tip 1. Never get tricked into talking bad about a colleague or employer.
Tip 2. Don't mention money at this part, or you may seem like you are a mercenary.
Tip 3. If you already have a job, then say it is about developing your career and yourself as a person.
Tip 4. If you were part of a downsized company, keep positive and short.
Tip 5. If you happen to be fired, then you need a good explanation. Whatever the circumstances were, don't talk about the drama and stay positive.
Tip 6. Avoid stating that you are looking for a new challenge if you can't back it up, because the interviewer will dig deeper.
Part B. Sample answers.
Sample 1. I'd love to be a part of product development from start to finish, and I know that I would have that opportunity here.
Sample 2. I'm looking for a job that has more responsibility.
Sample 3. I left my last job because I wanted to spend more time with my family. I'm now ready to go back to work full-time. Question 3. What is your greatest weakness?
Part A. Tips to answer.
Tip 1. Never deny that you don't have weaknesses. Everyone has them, and if you refuse to admit that you have weaknesses to your interviewer, then they will most likely write down that you're lacking in self-awareness, arrogant, or untruthful.
Tip 2. Be completely honest, but end on / a positive note.
Tip 3. Explain that you're happy to take on more training to develop your skills.
Tip 4. Show how you have managed to turn your weaknesses into strengths, e.g., education or training, and use your strengths to reduce the impact of your weaknesses.
Tip 5. We all have weaknesses. Just thinking about how they might affect the impression of you to your interviewer before you say anything. Part B. How to answer. Many career books will tell you to pick a strength and present it as a weakness. Like, I work way too much. I just work until I get told to stop. Wrong. This is a big no-no. First, when you use a strength and present it as a weakness, it's deceiving. Second, it misses the whole point of the question.
You need to pick a weakness that you have actually been working on to overcome. Like, I have had trouble with planning and prioritization, but I am now starting to correct this. I just started using a pocket planner.
Part C. Sample answer. My biggest weakness is having very little to no patience when coworkers withhold vital information to ruin the success of the assignment. I have tried to really maximize knowledge sharing by bringing co-workers together before any assignment to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Yet, there have been times where people withheld information after these efforts. It is these times that I have learned to privately speak with that person in order to understand why the information was withheld. Question 4. What is your greatest strength? You should have already mentioned your main weaknesses and strengths in your cover letter or CV. In order to answer a question like this, just go over what is written in your resume. Although, be prepared to back up your answers with examples.
This gives you a chance to launch your unique selling points, or 3 to 4 key strengths. Be sure to keep in mind the job requirements and compare these with your attributes, like your skills, abilities, experience, and personality. Where they match is where you need to consider them to be major strengths.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Share your true strengths and not those that you believe your interviewer wants to hear.
Tip 2. Choose strengths that are targeted to this job.
Tip 3. Give specific strengths. Instead of using people skills, use relationship building or persuasive communication.
Tip 4. Follow up with an example of how you have demonstrated these in a professional setting.
Part B. Sample answers. Sample 1. I was told that I am ethical, honest, and reliable.
Sample 2. I am flexible enough to handle changing environments.
Sample 3. My sense of urgency. If I know that a task is important, then I will work my hardest to get it done on time.
Sample 4. Able to cope with any setback and learn from my mistakes. Question 5. Where do you see yourself being in 3 to 5 years from now? Your interviewer is wanting you to display that you have really thought about your future, your ambition to really progress in your selected industry. They also want you to be able to verify that this isn't just a time-filling position. If you get asked this question, be specific, as well as honest about your future goals. But ensure that you are considering that a hiring manager will want to know. 1. If you have set a realistic expectation for your career. 2. If you have ambitions. 3. If the position is aligned with your growth and goals. Your best bet is to really think about where the position will or could take you and answer along those lines.
Part A. Tips to answers. Tip 1. Try and avoid general or vague answers like, I would expect to be in a management position by then, or I would hope to grow with the responsibility that I'm offered, and to really develop my skills as far as I can.
Tip 2. Talk about your interest in the industry of the company. Emphasize the value that you would bring to the organization, and what you can do for it.
Tip 3. Show that you are ambitious, but have realistic goals. Saying that you expect to be senior manager after 3 years won't go well.
Tip 4. Be specific, but very flexible. Your interviewer wants to know what you want. Hiring, training, and then developing staff can cost a lot of money. Around $9,000 in order to recruit a new graduate. So they want to ensure that you are really committed to staying with their company.
Tip 5. This question is one that will let you demonstrate that you have done your research in the career paths that are open to you within the company. Try to be more specific.
Part B. Sample answers. Sample 1. That actually depends on how well I perform in my job and what career opportunities come my way. The bottom line is that I want to have improved my skill sets and to continue making an ongoing contribution to any company that I may be working for.
Sample 2. In 5 years, I plan to have improved my abilities and become the leader in my field. This means that I can contribute more to my employer and their company. Question 6. Why should we hire you? This is one of the most important questions that you have to answer carefully. This is your chance to really stand out and bring attention to your skills, especially the ones that haven't been addressed.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. You should cover these 3 things. You can not only do the work, but you are able to deliver amazing results. You can fit in with the culture and team, and that you are a better hire than any other person.
Tip 2. Stating that you need a job or are just really good won't make the break.
Tip 3. Explain why you would make a great employee, why you would fit perfectly for the job and company, and what you have to offer.
Tip 4. Don't speculate about the other candidates and their flaws or strengths. Ensure that you are focused on you.
Tip 5. Keep it short and sweet, but be sure to highlight your achievements.
Part B. Sample answers. Sample 1. My skills in sales seemed to fit this job perfectly. My success at XYZ in achieving an annual growth rate of 35% support this. I have worked with similar product lines and have a full in-depth understanding of all of the technical aspects. My experience as a member of a large team will help to contribute to your department, and I am very enthusiastic about new challenges that will be involved in this position. Question 7. What do you know about this organization? Your interviewer wants to know if you did your research about all the job requirements and the company that you applied to. Remember, if you don't have knowledge about the company, it will be noticeable within the first few words of your answer.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Doing the background work will make you stand out. Find out who the main people are. Were they in the news lately?
Tip 2. Demonstrate that you have researched the company. Know the products, the firm size, the reputation and the industry, values, and history.
Tip 3. You don't have to know every date in person, but you need a good understanding of the company.
Tip 4. Allow your interviewer to tell you more about the company. Be sure to pay attention.
Tip 5. Begin with one line that shows you understand the goals of the company, using key phrases and words from the company site. But then make it personal, such as I really believe in this approach because, or I'm personally drawn to this mission because.
Part B. Sample answers. Sample 1. This company has a great reputation for amazing customer service.
Sample 2. Your company's products are the highest rated in the industry.
Sample 3. Your company was awarded a commendation for the help that you gave to hurricane victims. Question 8. Why do you want this job? This is basically the same thing as why do you want to work here? Why did you apply for this job? And why do you want to work for our company? Companies want to hire those who are passionate about the job. So you need to have a great answer about why you want this job.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Try to find a specific feature that the company prices themselves on. Training, client base, public image, individuality, etc.
Tip 2. Talk about their needs and explain what you can do for them. It's not about what you want here.
Tip 3. Show them you want to be a part of their success story by helping them to achieve their goal and meet their challenges.
Tip 4. Tie in your knowledge of them into the interests and skills that lead you to apply.
Tip 5. Demonstrate that you have researched the company.
Part B. Steps to answer. Step 1. Identify a few key factors that make the role perfect for you, such as I love customer support because of the consistent human interaction and the satisfaction from helping people solve issues.
Step 2. Then talk about why you love the company, such as I have always been really passionate about education and I believe you guys are doing great things. And I want to be a part of it.
Part C. Sample answers. Sample 1. After researching your company, I have learned that it is an industry leader and has an amazing reputation. I was also really impressed by the mission statement of the company, as well as the values and culture. I strongly feel that your company is where I would like to work and be associated with.
Sample 2. There is only a limited number of opportunities for advancement with my current employer, which is why I am very set on working for a larger corporation such as yours, where I would have more possibilities to show what I am able to do. Question 9. Let's talk about salary. What are you looking for? This tends to be a tricky question for many. And when it comes to an interview, it can be a dangerous situation. Talking salary prior to being sure you have made an impression is a mistake that is commonly made. When in negotiation, there is power in knowledge.
when it comes to responding. The number one thing to remember is to do your research before the interview. That's right. Prepare for the question just in case. You can use sites such as Glassdoor and PayScale to get an idea of what the low, median and high pay rate is for the position you're applying for. It's recommended to answer with the highest number in the range you come up with based on your level of education, experience, and skills. You also want the hiring manager to know you're open for negotiations.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Don't ignore the question. There are employers and hiring managers that will automatically deny a follow-up on any application or interview where the applicant skipped questions. So be sure not to ignore them. This isn't the part where you want to be stubborn because the interviewer could see you as being a hassle and move on to the next applicant.
Tip 2. Don't be too specific. Remember to be flexible. Your answer is simply a starting point, a suggestion. If you throw out a number that's too high, you could find a quick close to the interview. On the other hand, if you throw out a number that is too low, you could end up earning a salary that's less than you're worth, or need to live on.
Tip 3. Be flexible. This is important. You want to remain flexible at this stage. You may mention that salaries in your past have been between a broad range. You could also let them know that you know the suggested pay rate for the position you're applying for falls into a certain range, such as £20,000 to £30,000.
Tip 4. Defer the question. If you don't believe it's the correct time to talk about the numbers, you could defer the question by stating your pay rate is open for negotiation. You could also state you would prefer to discuss pay in person, or ask the employer to offer a pay rate.
Part 2. Ways to answer. When asked what are your pay rate expectations, there are 3 possible answers. Method 1. Don't answer. While ignoring the question isn't a good thing, there are other ways to avoid answering the question directly. You can state that you would like to know more about the job before getting into the numbers.
Method 2. Give a range. If you are comfortable providing an answer at this stage and you've done your homework, you can provide a salary range. Remember, you can use sites like PayScale to get an average salary range based on the job title, location and education or experience level. After you have begun the negotiation process, you will want to include benefits with your salary calculations as well. Say the employer offers improved health insurance than you currently have. This would be worth it in the long run to take a little less pay.
Method 3. If necessary, give one number. If you have been asked, yet can't provide a range as your answer, then go with a number in the middle of your salary range, possibly lower if you can. In this situation you are aiming to come in under their target rate, not over it.
Question 10. Do you have any questions for us? There's a good chance you understand the interview process is more than a chance for being hired, where the hiring manager can raise your stress levels, but an opportunity to really find out if the job is right for you. Is there anything you would like to know about the job you're applying for, or the company? How about the department or team?
These are all things you are likely to encounter during the interview, so it's a good idea to be prepared with some less common questions as well.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Remain brief. Remember that there could be other interviewees with appointment times.
Tip 2. Ask questions. You should ask questions about the job position, company, training, and so on. You don't want to start off by asking about holidays off, pension plans, etc.
Tip 3. Prepare questions. You want to be prepared when you go in. Make notes or refer to questions on paper if needed. Not only does this help you get information you may want to know, but also shows you can be prepared.
Tip 4. Use the time wisely. You only have a short amount of time. But if you are able to provide any additional information that the hiring manager may not know already, this is a great time to let them know.
Tip 5. Questions don't have to wait until the end. If a question happens to come up naturally, then ask it. Traditionally, an interview is a conversation, not an interrogation.
Part B. Sample answers. Interviewer. That appears to have covered it all. Unless you have any other questions.
Interviewee. I had made notes to inquire about your training process, but we already went over that. I believe we were able to cover everything at the moment. Thank you.
Part C. List of sample interview questions to ask employers.
1. When looking into the company's near future, what do you believe will be the most difficult challenges to face?
2. What new trends do you believe have an influence on the industry? And how is your company prepared for them?
3. What are you able to tell me about the company's plans for growth?
4. What does your company constitute as success in the current position?
5. What experience and skill sets would make a candidate more ideal?
6. If tomorrow was my first day, what would be top priority on my list?
7. What do you believe would be the largest challenges within this position?
8. How would you explain the company's culture and background? Question 11. Are you a team player? When it comes to the workplace, teamwork is usually an important art of making things run smoothly. Because of this, questions based around teamwork are on top of an interviewer's list. When asking, they will be looking at several areas that show evidence of a good team player.
Usually all interviewees answer yes when asked this question. However, it's not a simple yes or no question. If you answer yes, then you should be able to back your answer with examples of your behavior.
Part A. Team player requirements. 1. The ability to effectively communicate with other team members, co-workers, etc.
2. The ability to notice and understand viewpoints of other team members, co-workers, etc.
3. The ability to acknowledge and appreciate the contribution of your position within the company.
Part B. Sample answers. Sample 1. Yes. I enjoy being a team player and have had many previous opportunities in school and work to gain experience for developing my skills as being a team player. I have been on projects such as ABC.
Sample 2. I have found that working with others helps increase the performance, and it provides better workflow. This helps get the project done on time while keeping everything in motion. An example is a recent project where ABC. Question 12. What is the biggest mistake you have ever made? A. The purpose of this question. With this question, the interviewer is not trying to get you to admit to anything, but to see how you react to the question. how you answer and how you approach your error, along with the steps you have taken to correct it. There is a lot that can be learned by watching how someone reacts and handles their mistakes.
B. Tips to answer. Remember to always state that you understand where you first went wrong, and that you have learned from your experience. If you can, provide an example of something as far back as possible.
C. Sample answers. Sample 1. If I could go back in time, I would have went for a business studies degree, rather than hospitality. Sample 2. I remained in a stable job for years, but it didn't offer me any opportunities to grow with the company. Question 13. Why is there a gap in your work history? Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Avoid giving an answer related to illness, rehabilitation or unemployment. Even if any of these are because of a recession, it could be seen as high risk to an interviewer.
Tip 2. Remember to remain honest. While they may not deny you over the gap, they just might for being dishonest. If you got laid off, say so.
Tip 3. Nervous about providing an answer. Just keep in mind this is a great chance to build on the trust of the employer. Relax and be honest.
Part B. Steps to answer. 1. Put an emphasis on why you were let go from a previous job.
2. Answers could include something along the lines of the company had to downsize at some point during your employment, or that your position in the company was relocated.
3. Stay positive, even when talking about why you left your previous job.
4. Provide emphasis on any activities you may have done and include them in your gaps to help show professional standings.
Part C. Sample answers. The company went through some downsizing and they had to let several people in my department go. Unfortunately, being one of the last hired, my name was on the list. Nonetheless, I am proud of my position at Company X, and I can provide positive recommendations if needed.
Question 14. Tell me about a problem you have solved. The answer to this question can be rather tricky, and even more challenging if you've never been in the manager's position or a leader with responsibility of some kind. Your answer needs to be resourceful. Show that you have the ability to solve problems and that you have good decision-making skills. Keep it short and simple, but explain how you approach the issue.
Steps to answer. 1. Think back to a time you had an issue.
2. Describe the issue, what the outcome was expected to be, and the solutions that were available.
3. Discuss the people you had to work with, and how they worked together in order to solve the problem as expected.
Question 15. What do you dislike about your last job? Keep in mind when answering this that you do not criticize or answer negatively about the managers, company or other workers directly. Don't use salary or overtime issues as an answer. You want to use big issues.
Sample answers. Sample 1. It can sometimes be hard for me to gain a sense of any achievement within a large company, such as my current employer.
Sample 2. My current position offers few chance for advancement. Question 16. What has been your greatest achievement? There is nothing out there that screams, "Hire me," more than having a record of achievements for previous jobs where you went above and beyond. Don't hold back. Let your achievements shine.
Tips to answer. Tip 1. Going to college or gaining a degree will not put you apart from the other interviewees.
Tip 2. Your achievements should show evidence of skills related to the job you're applying for.
Tip 3. The STAR method is a great approach. This method includes
1. Start by building up the task that was required to finish. This gives context. 2. Talk about what you did. This is the action. 3. Give the result of what you achieved.
Sample answers. In just a month, I was able to improve the overall process, saving our group more than 10 hours a month spent on invoices, and reduced the overall error margin by 25%.
Question 17. Tell me about any issues you've had with a previous boss. If you let yourself fall for this question, chances are you probably shouldn't be hired. This question is in full force to find out how you refer to your previous boss. The best approach is with diplomacy and tact. If there's nothing positive, remember if you can't say anything nice, develop sudden memory loss. Basically, you have never had an issue with a prior employer.
Keep in mind, if you simply say no, then the interviewer is likely to keep going deeper in order to find some type of conflict. The important part is how you react to the conflict in your behavior, and how you fix the issue.
Sample answer. I've had some previous conflicts, but they weren't major conflicts. There have been a few disagreements, but have learned that it helps to understand the view of the other person in order to come up with a resolution. I listen to the other person's perspective, then figure out how to come up with a solution. For example, ABC. Question 18. Tell me a suggestion you have made that was implemented. Pardon? Answer tips.
Tip 1. The purpose of this question is to see how creative you are, or if you are not at all.
Tip 2. Explain an innovative idea you have had that was approved by a previous boss and how it was applied.
Tip 3. Don't waste time with using average or even good yet still useless ideas.
Part B. Answer samples. There have been several situations at work which have directly affected the performance of me and my coworkers. By improving the workplace and finding a solution for the situation, it helps both me and my coworkers. Because of this, I do not simply take a suggestion as just that, but consider how it can be applied to correct the situation. I pay close attention to details, and when there's a way to improve a situation to save time and nuisances, I speak to the boss about a correction. Question 19. Would you rather work for money or job satisfaction? Obviously, doing it for the money is the wrong answer. It's okay to let them know the money is important, but it's never more important than being satisfied with a job well done. If you go with money, they will see you as just in it for the money.
Answer sample. Good question. It would be nice for the pay rate to equal the work I do, which would play part in my job satisfaction. Also, personal financial issues could affect the job satisfaction too. Assuming both of these are covered, I would prefer to be excited over the work I produce and be content with it when I return home.
Question 20. Has anything ever irritated you about people you've worked with? Naturally, you would have a long list here, but remember, you don't want to let them know this. You never want to show negativity, as it could be seen as you're hard to work with and not worth training. A good answer would be to think, then respond that you've actually gotten along with all of your coworkers. Question 21. What relevant experience do you have? Part A. Tips to answer.
Tip 1. Discuss experience you have in the specific area you are applying for.
Tip 2. Be sure it's relevant.
Tip 3. Don't bring up experiences that are not relevant.
If there are not previous experiences that are relevant, discuss some experiences that have improved your knowledge and skills for the position.
Part B. Top employment experience you'd want to review.
1. Companies you worked for with dates.
2. The positions you've held.
3. Key projects and responsibilities.
4. Achievements.
5. Coursework and continuous education.
6. Expertise.
7. Tools you used, software, hardware.
8. Knowledge of languages.
9. Engagement with customers and key industry leaders.
10. Teamwork you were involved, and your contribution.
Question 22. How are you when you're working under pressure? Yes is generally the best answer to this question, as it's a good thing to possess. Although, by responding that you work the same with or without the pressure, the interviewer may be more impressed.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Provide many examples when answering. Use situations in your past.
Tip 2. Keep going by explaining how daily tasks were prioritized and how your projects were organized. Then provide problem solving and situations that were critical.
Tip 3. Don't mention any situations where you may have put yourself under stress for no reason.
Tip 4. Don't focus on your stress level. Even though you mention stress happens, it should not be your focal point. Focus more on how you deal with it.
Part B. Sample answers. I prefer working in a challenging environment and work better when under stress. In the world of writing and editing, there's a balance between deadlines and juggling multiple projects. When being tested with the deadline closing in, I find more creativity comes out.
Question 23. What is your biggest failure? Part A. Tips to answer.
Tip 1. Don't like and say that you have never failed at something. This could quickly turn the interview into a fail. No one is perfect.
Tip 2. Keep the answer on something outside of the workplace if possible. If not, bring up something you were able to fix later.
Tip 3. Avoid mentioning a personal quality which may prevent your performance on the job. Things like procrastination and laziness.
Tip 4. Don't use a failure which may show you're not able to perform the position applying for.
Part B. Answer samples. Looking back at my career, my biggest failure has been not properly preparing myself more with education. I took on courses in college which had no impact on my actual career path, and I had a chance to have extra courses in my career major. It didn't take long into my career to realize I could have prepared better academically. Eventually I decided to go back to school and I finished my MBA. Although, had I put more time in my major rather than electives, the first several years of my career would have been even more productive.
Question 24. How would your boss, supervisors and coworkers describe you? The focus of this question is to find out how you build relationships with your bosses and coworkers, and how you do in a team. I test your personality instead of behavior.
Part A. Tips to answer. Tip 1. Remember to be honest. This is important as they will be contacting previous employers.
Tip 2. Provide traits and strengths they may not know already. These include a strong work ethic.
Tip 3. Provide examples with answers when possible. You of course don't want to say everyone enjoys working beside or with you, but several good examples can go a long way.
Part B. Sample answers.
Sample 1. I don't mind helping out in whatever may need done. And you often offer assistance prior to being requested.
Sample 2. I prefer to build relationships with team members as these will be the people I am around for 8 hours a day for years.
Sample 3. When it's appropriate, I enjoy having a little fun. Laugh and keep tension low while retaining a high morale.
Question 25. What sort of person do you not like to work with?
With this question, the interviewer is aiming to find out just how you might fit in with coworkers and supervisor. Depending on your answer, they will consider if you would be a good match and how you and the other workers would get along.
Part A. Tips to answer.
Don't bring up specific characteristics or personality traits. Consider what makes a bad worker and go that path. Use this as your starting point and explain how you make an effort to work out a trouble relationship.
Some tips that you must pay attention to.
1. Avoiding going into detail is best. Don't be too descriptive.
2. Be vague with your answer, so it's not pointing out a certain type of person.
3. Try to show that you'd like to work alongside someone who's similar to you.
Part B. Sample answer. I would like to work with a person who has a similar approach to work as I do, such as planning and organizing then taking action. I also enjoy taking on new tasks. So a manager who would be willing to give me the chance to try new things so I can advance my profession and keep learning. In addition to these, being approachable is always good. Someone who's supportive and can be sensitive, yet a team leader who can provide directions. Top 17 job interview tips.
Tip 1. Job. Employer research. Being successful with an interview begins by having knowledge about the job and company. By understanding the requirements for the position and the interviewer's background, the better you can provide answers tailored to the position you're applying for.
Tip 2. Be honest. You think this is easy? Wrong. Many people are not honest during the interview. So if you are honest, sincere and truthful, that's a big advantage. Somehow, candidates get the impression that a good technique is to dance around difficult interview. If you don't have a skill, just state it. Don't try to cover it up by talking and giving examples that aren't relevant. You're much better off saying you don't have that skill, but perhaps you do have some related skills, and you're happy to tell them about that if they like.
Tip 3. Answer practices. This is another area where you can be successful in an interview. By preparing your answers to questions that can be expected. Start by asking what to expect from the interview, or the type it will be. You can ask the person at the company which you contacted at first. This helps you better build your answers to be detailed, but relevant to the position you seek. An interesting way to remember your answers is to convert them into a story format which you're going to tell the interviewer. You don't and shouldn't memorize your answers, but having talking points is still a good idea.
Tip 4. Stay calm. During the job interview, try to relax and stay as calm possible. Remember that your body language says as much about you as your answers to the questions. Proper preparation will allow you to exude confidence. Take a moment to regroup. Maintain eye contact with the interviewer. Listen to the entire question, active listening, before you answer, and pay attention. You will be embarrassed if you forget the question.
Tip 5. Tailor your story to the job. Do not try to memorize your answers. Do convert them into story model. The following step in your process should be building your story around the employer. To do this, first consider what you would be looking for if you were the interviewer. What questions would you ask? Then decide which stories would be most relevant to respond with. Good stories would cover how you handled certain situations, challenges, stress, pressure, and ones where you learned from your failures and mistakes. Stories that cover skills and talents are a good way to let them know what you can do as well. Practicing your story beforehand is the first step. This way you won't have to rely on quick thinking to answer a question. You will have the answers ready before you begin and be able to provide an interview experience which is going to make an impression and be memorable, while showing your abilities and competency.
Tip 6. Dress for success. Dressing to impress is important, but you should also consider how you would dress for the position you're applying for. Overdressing is more acceptable than underdressing. This includes making sure you're presentable and clothing is clean. You should minimize the use of jewelry and accessories, and don't eat prior to the interview, or smoke so you smell presentable as well. Using mouthwash just before the interview can help.
Tip 7. Arrive on time for the interview. Unless there has been some type of disaster, there isn't an excusable reason to be late for your interview. You should aim to get there 10 to 15 minutes earlier than your interview time is scheduled in case they have any other paperwork. Being there before the interview allows you to get an idea of where you would be working as well. The day prior to your interview is a good time to begin preparing your copies of the CV, resume, and any reference lists you have to take. You should also bring any work samples or a portfolio that you have. And also bring plenty of pens and a notepad. Also remember to turn your phone off once you arrive to the office, and ditch any gum you may have been chewing on.
Tip 8. Make good first impressions. There's a rule to interviews. Greet others and be polite to everyone. This includes the parking attendant or receptionists, the interviewer. You never know whose opinion may be the difference in you getting the job or not. Also remember the first several seconds of the interview is very important as this is their first impression of you. You should do your best to make the first impression a strong one. This includes dressing appropriately, being early, and be sure your greeting is done with a smile, eye contact and good posture. Your shake should be firm, not like you're afraid you'll hurt them, but not hand-crushing either. Studies have shown a positive attitude, as well as showing enthusiasm over the job position and the company are very important in the beginning stages of the interview. This is because the interviewer is going to make the most critical choices in the first 20 minutes.
Tip 9. Remember body language. Avoiding bad habits. Remember, the choice of words you use for responding is important. But so is your body language. Having negative body language can become a distraction for the interviewer. And it could even cause you to lose out on the job. Body language that gives off a positive message includes eye contact, smiling, active listening, solid posture, and nodding. Body language that give off a negative message includes slouching, playing with pens or fidgeting, looking into space, constantly touching your face, mumbling and chewing gum. Research has also shown that the interviewers judge during an interview based on how interested the applicant is about the job. Do they ask questions? If so, what kind? This means although the interviewer covered a bunch and was thorough, you still should ask several questions relevant to the job. Preparing days prior to the interview is suggested. This gives time for practicing and any other questions that come up during the interview should be added.
Tip 10. Sell yourself throughout and then close the deal. There's a proverb with interviewing which states the one who is hired isn't always the top qualified applicant. This means the one who shows they have what it takes by answering questions often gets the job over the highest qualified person who simply sits there. Consider the interview as a sales position, where you're the salesperson trying to sell your product, your skills and abilities. Describe how you can benefit them, their company, and solve their problems. When the interview begins coming to an end, inquire about the following step in the hiring process, and a time frame of when you should be hearing about the decision. If you're looking into a job in sales, or a similar job where aggressiveness is a key skill, you may try requesting the job during the closing of the interview.
Tip 11. Be authentic, focused, confident. Upon beginning the interview, remember quality and the ability to deliver your responses is important. You should always strive to respond honestly and with authenticity to any of the questions. However, your main goal is to make it to the following step in the hiring process. So you want the answers to be tailored to your skills which are relevant to the job. You should also be able to provide examples that back up your answers. Use relevant situations. Showcase your accomplishments. And be brief. If you have prepared your answers to the most common questions as stated in number 3 above, you should be able to avoid extended answers which could come off as boring to the interviewer. All answers should be strong, but brief and to the point. And last, but not least, don't let the interviewer trick you into talking bad about a previous employer, coworker, or supervisor. The interview should be focused around you, showcasing what you can bring to the company.
Tip 12. Focus more on what you can do for the company, rather than what they can do for you. When it comes to an interview, someone has to take the role of a seller, the other the role of a buyer in the early stages. At this stage, you are the seller trying to sell your skills to the company. This makes the interviewer the buyer. At some point during the interview, you will be asked if you have any questions for the interviewer, and you don't want to say no or I can't think of anything. At the same time, it's also bad to have a long list of questions. Appropriate job interview questions to ask your interviewers. 1. Can you describe a usual day for the position? 2. What would my top priority be within the first 90 days? 3. What is the top challenge your department is facing in the near future? 4. Is this position new, or a replacement? 5. When it comes to generating new business, what is the company's strategy plan? 6. What type of management style does the company have?
Tip 13. Bring examples of your work. Don't underestimate the power behind showing printed work examples. Being in the executive recruiter position, there has been many times when I have been called up after an interview by the hiring manager just to express how impressed they had been with the candidate, just because they brought the work examples with them. Because the majority of applicants forget to add this in their preparations. Just this alone will help put you apart when it comes to other candidates. There have been some who brought written copies of their recent job evaluations. However, this should only be done if the evaluation was top-notch. By sharing with the interviewer your strengths and skills, they will make note that you said so. However, if you are able to back up your statements with documents showing your previous bosses have also said this, it will make a much larger impact. Also, if you have any visuals that show how you have helped to improve the company, such as graphs that show how the amount of time and costs were reduced due to your actions, these will also help make an impact.
Tip 14. Don't bring up salary or benefits during the first interview. Remember that an interview goes both ways. You are not the only one under evaluation. You are also evaluating the company. Changing jobs or moving into a new field is a huge deal, and it's important to understand how things work with the company, such as 401k plans, or how they figure out bonuses and other benefits you may be getting. However, if you ask about any of these things on the first interview, it's basically an interview suicide. You should wait until the company decides if they are going to offer you a position. Once they have offered you a position within their company, this is your chance to begin asking questions like this. Tip 15. Ask questions. Do not leave the interview without ensuring that you know all that you want to know about the position. Once the interview is over, your chance to have important questions answered has ended. Asking questions can also show that you are interested in the job. Be specific with your questions. Ask about the company and the industry. Avoid asking personal questions of the interviewer. And avoid asking questions pertaining to politics, religion and the like.
Tip 16. Interview thank you letters. If you have been paying attention so far, you will have noticed things such as being polite and courtesy will get you farther during an interview. So this tip shouldn't be much of a surprise. Thanking the interviewers. There's no better time than the present to begin. So at the end of the interview, begin thanking the interviewer. Then shortly after the interview, send out thank you emails in a letter sent via postal mail. While this step won't ensure you get the offer, it can help put you about the other candidates who didn't send a thank you. It will also remind them of you at random intervals.
Tip 17. Don't give up. If you've had a bad interview for a job that you truly think would be a great fit for you, not just something you want badly, don't give up. Write a note, send an email, or call the interviewer to let him or her know that you think you did a poor job of communicating why you think this job would be a good match. Reiterate what you have to offer the company, and say that you'd like an opportunity to contribute.